Hello, everybody. Got a special guest tonight, Kenneth Mejia, who's going to talk about what he's doing in Los Angeles. But first, Angela and I are going to give you some of our thoughts about what's been going on. The thing I've been thinking about is this video that AOC did about how she feared for her life. And she compared it to something she hadn't revealed before, being a victim of sexual abuse. And, you know, she points out that people say she should move on and even apologize for what happened. That's what the right wing is doing. And when those people went in the Capitol, I mean, we're finding out more and more that particularly the Proud Boys, but other groups, they were organized and they were looking for people. And this could have been a mass casualty situation. So what that tells me is these people got to be held accountable, because if we just let them go, like, this is the end of the Civil War and we just let all the Confederates come back in, in the end, they went violent and overthrew the Reconstruction governments. But these people are a real danger. And, they have been involved in violent incidents where people have been killed, not just in the Capitol. And if these people get off scot-free, including Trump, that's just going to encourage the right. So that's what I've been thinking about since seeing that. And, Trump is so damn incompetent. That coup attempt was farcical. He tried to do it without military backing. The way you do it is like the way Myanmar did it. The military did it. Trump didn't have the forces, but they tried anyway. And even though they couldn't have succeeded, they could have caused a lot more damage than they did. So, this far right group out there, as I've said before, when they see that they can't get power by electoral means, they'll get violent. We see that in counter revolutions across the world throughout history, whether it was Italian fascism as the socialists gained power in Italy, or the massacre of 2 or 3 million people in Indonesia when Sukarno's nationalists and the communists were winning elections, or Allende in Chile. They're autocrats. They don't care about democracy. Democracy is only convenient when they're winning. And we got to understand that. So I think, that's what's been on my mind. Meanwhile, I've been involved in some local issues last couple of weeks. We succeeded in stopping the certification of the Express Vote XL voting machine, which is both a online, a screen tab recorder and tabulator. It's a combined machine, which opens the door to either mistakes or deliberate, messing with the election results. So for the time being, we got that stopped in New York. So we're still using hand-marked ballots that are scanned and voters verify. So that was a little victory. And I participated in a news conference on abolition of cash bail, where we have partial abolition in New York State, but it's being grossly unequally implemented between Black and Latino defendants and white defendants here in my county of Onondaga County, New York. So, and then the other thing was, I was asked by a group called Fight for NYCHA, that's the New York City Housing Authority. The liberal Democrat, Bill de Blasio, has this whole privatization scheme going on because they can't get public funding, so they're going to get private investors. And one of the agreements, twice ordered by the courts, is that they have to remove the mold. 83% of New York City public housing tenants have a serious health problem, whether it's mold or roach and rat infestation, leaks, lack of heat in the winter. 80% last winter went for a period without heat. And what New York City Housing Authority under de Blasio is saying is, well, since we've turned these units over to private management, we're no longer responsible for remediating the mold. So these people are fighting mold, which is a health hazard, as well as COVID. So my statements are up on the campaign website. But man, there are a lot of issues out there. And these are issues that we can make a difference on at the local level. So that's what's on my mind and what I've been doing. How about you, Angela?
Well, to start off, happy Black History Month, people. Welcome, Green family. I am thinking of all of the things that have given me Black joy recently. And I think that that's one of the things that we absolutely, when we're talking about Black History Month and all of the things that African Americans have, endured on this continent. And also as a proud member of the African diaspora, because I am aware that our history did not begin with our enslavement on these shores. As a member of the diaspora, I'm super excited. So I want to lift up my homie Tatame, a good friend of the Green family, member of our Green family. If y'all are not following Tatame's diary on YouTube, y'all want to. Lifting up our homegirl, Tatame. Intersectionality Matters with Kimberly Crenshaw. Excellent podcast. I'm gonna end up, these will end up being put in the chat. This is Revolution. If y'all aren't listening to these podcasts, you want to. Queer Walk Podcast, Tea with Queen and Jay, Marsha's Plate, Bag Ladies, and Inner Her Uprising. So when we're talking about all of the issues that are pertinent in our communities, not only within these boundaries, but also throughout the diaspora, Miss Russell, I'm not apologizing to anybody. I am a diasporist. I am an internationalist. And I am someone who is aware that my lineage did not begin on these shores. It's much older than that. And if you disagree, you're welcome to disagree. But this is where I am on this. And I've been very clear about that. So if y'all aren't following these folks, you need to, you want to. Here at the beginning of Black History Month, I am excited about all the things that we will be talking about and new content that'll be coming out. So I'm very excited. Howie?
Okay, well, let's, I think our guest is going to come on the screen here in a minute, unless there's something I don't know. Do we have Kenneth Mejia here?
There he is.
Hey, Kenneth. Kenneth is a remarkable young man, in my opinion. He's run some great congressional campaigns down there in Los Angeles. I believe he got past their jumbo primary to the final primary, running against the Democrat, which is an achievement in itself, and that brings up electoral reform. And now he's running for the comptroller of Los Angeles. And I think people should look at his website after the podcast, because when I've looked on there, it's one of the most, substantive. His posts are very substantive. You learn a lot. To me, Facebook is usually like you walk into a bar, and everybody's drunk, and you ask a question, and everybody pops off without knowing what they're talking about. Kenneth knows what he's talking about. So welcome, Kenneth, and tell us about what you're doing in Los Angeles. And also, and I think this is something we agree on, why it's so important for Greens to run in these local elections.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, everyone. Hi, Angela. Hi, Howie, for having me. I know it's been a long while, and I'm very excited to be here. With my Green fam, with you all, representing us. So thank you for doing this. Our race is for the city controller of Los Angeles, and basically the city of controller's position is it is the city's chief accounting officer, the financial auditor, and also the paymaster. So, as the chief accounting officer, we're in charge of making sure everything's accounted for. There's no fraud. We're making sure that everything's being booked. We're spending within budgets. and whatnot. And then as the financial auditor, you know, we're auditing departments to make sure that they're being effective, they're being efficient, and we're not wasting money. So a lot of people want us to audit the LAPD, which is the one of the largest police forces in the country. So definitely that's one of the things we've been focusing on is putting a light on their spending and where they get their money. And then lastly, the paymaster is we're just in charge of paying vendors, employees, and whatnot. So it's a very powerful position. We're not in a policy making position, so we can't make, you know, we can't enact rent control, we can't lower people's rent, we can't defund polices, but we can put information out there and be radically transparent about where our money is. And that in turn, hopefully will push the masses to get that information that we put out and then lobby their city council members or their mayors to fight for better funding for their communities. So, you know, we're an oversight role. We're like a watchdog. So that's what the city controller is. And, you know, I've been an accountant and an auditor for 11 years. So I just thought it was the perfect role for us. And, you know, I'm a green and a progressive. So why not combine the actual professional experience with the, you know, with the activism and go for it. So that's what we're doing. So yeah, that's the race. And that's pretty much what I am.
Yeah, I was going to point out you're a CPA. You're more qualified than I was when I ran for city auditor of Syracuse. The only reason I got into that race is the Democrats were split. And one faction wanted a candidate to run against the other faction. So besides the Greens, I had a lot of Democratic support. And I got 35% of the vote. But one thing I knew is that unlike the guy that was in there, wasn't doing the job, wasn't hiring qualified people, he was hiring his drinking buddies. I was going to hire some people that were qualified. So, you know, I'd provide overall direction on priorities, but, you know, they would have the skills. And, you know, I don't know exactly what the charge of the comptroller in Los Angeles is, but it sounds like you can do all the audits you want. And the police department, you know, obviously is a target. So I think that's an important office for Greens everywhere to be looking at.
Yeah, it's a very powerful position, and a lot of people don't know about it. And so this race historically has had a low turnout race, you know, anywhere from 10% to 15%, and it runs unopposed. So this is a perfect race for Greens or for anybody to run in, and it's also a powerful position. We're running for a citywide race along with the mayor, you know, and also along with the city attorney. So definitely, I hope more people look at these races and run for them.
So talk about, you know, your organizing strategy. I mean, when you ran for Congress, it was quite impressive looking on your website, which was one of the better websites I've seen. And, you know, pictures of people out there with you, seemed like you had a good crew running with you.
Yeah, so our organizing, you know, I mean, we ran in 2017, 2018, and we always have a good amount of community when we do run for office. You know, many of us are activists ourselves, whether it's housing rights organizations or, you know, climate justice organizations or racial justice organizations. A lot of us do the work on the ground, but we find electoral campaigns to also get involved with. And I think that's what's great about the way we run our campaigns is we make it not really a lot about, you know, electoral politics, but more of building movements, doing the groundwork and whatnot. And so our campaign currently has close to 300 signups in a month and a half. And we've raised over 26,000, like in a month and a half, with close to 600 donors individually. So our campaign has been really like popping off really well. And a lot of people are excited in LA, and it's the second largest city, but you know, we do the activism first, and then I guess just naturally it attracts people to get involved with our campaign. And I think our campaign is not really so much electoral related because we're not in a policy position like, you know, the mayor race or the city council race, but we're attracting people because we can be objective, we can be transparent, and everyone loves that. Whether you're a liberal or a conservative, people love to just see information that's out there, and that's what Controller does. And that's what I want to do. Is I want to be so radically transparent about our money, where our money comes in from, and when we spend it. And I just want to put it out there all the time. So definitely the organizing has been great, and we have such an amazing team of people helping us out.
I think the fact that you're not part of the Democratic machine is a selling point for that independence and transparency. And a lot of people like that when they go to the polls and say, this guy's watching everybody else. I want somebody who's not compromised by the machine. So I think, that's another thing, not just your race, but Greens around the country, when they're looking at what to run for, these comptroller and auditor races have that going for them.
Right, exactly. I'll get people who sign up and they're like, "Oh, I'm sick of the Democratic Party," and I'm like, "Oh," and then I tell them I'm actually a Green. They're like, "Oh, no way, I love the Greens." Because this is a nonpartisan race, so this is also a huge benefit as well. So no one knows, if we're running as a Dem or a Green, but our website's green and everything. When people ask, of course, we say we're green. But definitely, I think a lot of people are sick of neoliberal politics in Los Angeles. Los Angeles is known for catering to real estate developers. That's the big thing. Real estate, the police, LAPD, keeping the malls open during COVID and allowing people to do whatever they want. So it's like who needs Donald Trump when you have your own neoliberal mayor allowing these things to happen, allowing the LAPD to brutalize Black and brown people, allowing policies that give tax breaks and financial assistance to billionaire real estate developers. Why do we need Trump to do that when we're doing that here? We have a 15 city council board, seats, and so all 14 are Democrats and one's independent, but they're literally, and then the mayor is a Democrat too, but it just people are sick of that, and we're shining a light, and all the organizations are shining a light on their hypocrisy. And I'm hoping more and more people get really fed up. And then if we win, they'll be like, "Oh my God, we got a Green in the second largest city in the country." And they're like, "All right, I'm gonna go Green now." so definitely we're hoping this does attract people to leave the Dems.
I think that's a really good point. Our best argument is not what we say, it's what we do. And if we start winning races like this, people can, they can't credibly say we can't win because we just did it. So I think this is an important race. Your website was up on the screen there for a minute, and I would just tell people, they can throw a few dollars at Kenneth to help him with his campaign. So go right ahead if you want. There it is up on the screen again.
There were a couple of super questions for you, Kenneth, in the chat that I thought, that were kind of pitched at you. Jennifer, if you didn't mean to aim that at Kenneth, let me know, but it looked like a Kenneth question. And I'm trying to find it. Oh yeah. And I thought this was a dope question. Jennifer Hyman, who's a Green Party member of the Black Caucus, one of our peoples, is asking, how do we scale back privatization and hold developers accountable for habitability at the same time?
That's a very good question. I mean, we definitely need more quality public housing. All the new developments are basically all luxury housing. I think it's over 93% of all new development in LA in terms of housing is luxury housing. And we do definitely need more quality public housing. There's actually a shortage here in LA. A lot of people are rent burdened. And so I know in terms of holding developers accountable, I think one thing that we can do as the controller, because you know, I'm not in a policy making position to vote no, you know, to not give them tax breaks. But what we can do is we can show, you know, how much money that we are giving these developers tax abatements, which is basically financial assistance or tax breaks to these billionaire developers, and whatnot. And what we're seeing is that these developments that they're building, like no one can afford to live there. You know, they're building hotels, they're building apartments. And I think that if we could show how that impacts our communities by, number one, showing that the existing residents cannot even afford to live there. And number two, you know, it's just not bringing the economic benefit that they said it would, right? Like no one's going there. People are getting kicked out of their homes because these new apartments are gentrifying neighborhoods and whatnot. So it's raising people's rents, because why would they rent to an existing tenant paying $500 when they could charge $2,000, right? So I think in our position is definitely by putting a light on what these developers and their developments are having, you know, and their negative effects on the community, and then just showing how much the city spends on literally subsidizing billionaire developers, right? And what we would do is then take that information and give it to you all, the people, and then it would be up to, you know, the masses in organizing to go after them, right? To go after the city council members, to go after the mayor, and do that info. So we definitely are going with the data-driven approach on how we want to use our position as controller, and we're hoping that people can use the info that we share, you know, to use that as to arm themselves with knowledge when they do talk to city council members. Thank you, Jennifer, for the question.
Yeah, we need those kind of audits here in New York City. Not only are they privatizing public housing, it's basically, they call it public-private partnership. And it really means the public pays and the private profits. So they're handing over management of units to private developers. And the example I gave is the mold's not getting remediated. Where is the city auditor in New York City on that? And then de Blasio has a so-called affordable housing program where they greenlight developer projects, and they have to set aside some affordable units. But the lowest income you can have, the lowest income you can have to get into one of those units is $60,000 a year. And there's a huge part of the working class in Manhattan and Brooklyn and Queens and the Bronx, they can't afford that. So they're being pushed out to the, you know, far outer boroughs or outside the city, which adds to their commuter costs. And, you know, they take the subway into work, but they can't make ends meet. It's not an affordable housing program. And Scott Stringer, the, what do they call him in New York? The city comptroller, city comptroller, hadn't done anything on that. So this is the kind of thing we need in a lot of cities, just to expose what's really going on. Because people, they hear the headline, oh, de Blasio's building affordable housing. But then, you know, you need a report to show this isn't providing affordable housing to the people that need it.
Exactly. We do need more watchdogs and independent oversight, because everything's connected to money, and if we can show where that money is coming, where it's coming from, and where it's being spent, I think a lot of people can really use that information and go after you know, these politicians that are just wastefully spending money and or giving it away, you know, to developers, for example. So definitely we need more of these positions.
Josh Gonzales is asking, is the population of LA sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, we in our city, I mean, we have over 4 million residents. You know, it's a big city. I think definitely in certain neighborhoods there's more dense areas, especially like in Koreatown or, you know, around here near downtown LA. There's places more dense than others, but I think definitely the city has to do a better job on public transit. We are a car city, unfortunately. We're a car city, unfortunately. So it really is. It is getting packed, right, with traffic. I mean, with COVID and everything, there's no traffic now. But definitely, as our population does grow, it leads to a lot of new development that is luxury housing, and it's higher density, and people unfortunately can't afford it and whatnot. So I think as the years go by, definitely I'm curious to see how the city is going to accommodate just the growing population, or if people move out because no one can afford to live here anymore. So good question.
Yeah, I'm a native Californian, and I watched the sprawl march down through Silicon Valley, which used to be orchards when I was a kid. And it's very inefficient use of land and resources built around the car. I mean, you couldn't design a more energy and resource inefficient way of laying out a city. And Los Angeles is the same way. I don't know, Kenneth, if you've ever seen the book, The Future of Los Angeles by Paul Glover. I got to find you a copy. He's a green who was trained as a city planner. He's now in his 70s, had a stroke. He's kind of having some problems. But he wrote this back in the 80s. And it was basically how you can bring back the trolley system, provide clean water by desalinization instead of solar desalinization instead of shipping water from the rest of California and the Colorado River, and how to re-densify the neighborhoods and provide more green space, common space for community gardens and parks and so forth. And it's one of my favorite all-time books. So I'm gonna try to track that down and get it to you.
Yeah, definitely need green space. So yeah, that'd be a good book. Yeah.
Hey, Zeke. That's our homie, Zeke Kramer. And Zeke is asking, what do you think about companies moving from California to states like Texas?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's the one complaint a lot of people say about California is taxes. People are moving from LA. I know a couple people moving from LA to go into Texas. It's insane, but they say Texas is cheaper. There's no tax there. I get it. Like in California, we're one of the most heavily taxed states, and as a green, I think about all right, we're giving all this money to our government, and what are they doing, right? What are they doing for it? Oh, we're gonna subsidize real estate developers with your money. What the hell? I didn't sign up for that. I wanted single payer or something. So I understand the sentiment. Some people just want more money, and because you are heavily taxed here, and whatnot. So that's sort of my thoughts on that is that people are leaving because they just want to make more money elsewhere in Texas. So yeah.
Well, I've always said if we owned our own jobs, we wouldn't move them to Texas or Mexico or China. If these companies were worker cooperatives, we'd pay our taxes and still make money. A lot of these companies, they weren't losing money. They go into Texas because they can make more money.
Exactly.
And that's what you get when you have an ownership class that can make those decisions, and the rest of us suffer the consequences.
Hey, our homegirl Tina. Hey, boo. They're buying out 2 hotels here in Austin with reallocated funds from the APD to try to help house the homeless.
Yeah, actually, I heard about that. And us in LA have been sharing that article on how they took money from, Austin Police Department, and they're funding housing, albeit, just giving housing to our unhoused community. And I thought that was a great example of what it means, basically to defund the police and give it to resources and to communities that need it, right? And so I think when a lot of people think of like, oh my God, what are you going to do with that money though? It's like, we're going to give it to other areas, to other communities in need that need it, right? Because, first of all, police criminalize, living on the streets, being unhoused. And so that also costs money for the city when they spend money and harass people living on the streets. And that's what we tell people is like, give people housing, give people homes. They're not, they're not going to be on there. You as a city even save money. So I think it's really, really awesome to see money being used for good purposes. So, yeah.
Nikita Khrushchev, hey, global warming / pollution is the world's biggest threat. The Green Party can fight this threat. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I think Nikita, you're making a statement, and I totally agree with you. In LA, I think we're one of the most polluted cities in the country. LA, there's so much. I mean, actually, I think because of COVID, sadly, the weather has been better. Like, there's not a lot of smog as before, which sucks that you need a pandemic to let that happen. But LA is one of the most polluted cities. Lots of cars, lots of smog, and industrial areas here too. And so, I agree. I think that the Green Party can fight this threat. So. I'm going to do like your emoji and do the muscles and the little thing, the heart. So, yeah, go Green Party.
Oh, yes. Hey, Celine. Celine Kilgore is lifting up the fact that in Oregon, they decriminalize drugs. What is your perspective on that? And as folks who have been following us know, this was a part of our campaign platform. So what are your thoughts on that, Kenneth?
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I support decriminalizing drugs. If anything, I think there should be an education campaign and whatnot on drugs, and give people the resources and information that they need. Right. So definitely something that I personally am about. So. Mm-hmm.
We're digging out all the questions, like specifically aimed at you. What is the most interesting for you personally? Because you interviewed me and you did a really dope interview. It was one of the most fun interviews I ever did.
Yeah.
It really was. It was so much fun. And what are the things that are keeping you going during your campaign? What's inspiring you?
Yeah, I mean, our campaign, what keeps me going is just the amount of support that we're getting from people who just want to help hold city elected officials accountable, and that's our position that we're running for. And I think that just the surge of people signing up to volunteer, the surge of donations we raised in just like a month and a half, I think it's been really, really, really tremendous, and that keeps me going. Because if people want to keep going, and then that's what keeps me going, right? And so I have a lot of energy. Not all the time in the world, but definitely, ordinary folks just running and wanting to help us get involved has been pushing me. So.
Good stuff. I mean, yeah, it's the whole campaign thing is difficult and it's exhausting. So my hat is always off to you, especially bringing all that energy that you bring to your work. So we're celebrating that.
Yeah, we have fun with it. We do like some funny TikToks, some funny Instagram videos, and so we're like educational and serious, but we're also have a fun side too. And that's what really makes our campaign team really awesome is we're not your typical campaign, like suit and tie, always serious, meeting with donors all the time, trying to get $1,000 donations. I think it's just really a natural, free flowing campaign that just grew naturally. So yeah, love it.
Well, for you, it's for real. You notice the major party politicians are dressing down and trying to just be one of the folks, but they can't pull it off. I think you do that. I think, Greens do that because that's where we come from. And I think people appreciate that, particularly, yeah, talk about, voter contact and canvassing, because I've always felt this where the Greens have an advantage. The major party candidates, once they get the machine designates them and they're past the primary, general election, they don't even really need to campaign because most districts are majority Democrat or majority Republican because of gerrymandering or just where people live. And so I think that's where we have to work harder, but we can level the playing field. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, definitely. It's they're very difficult to run in an electoral system that's not designed for third parties. We got gerrymandering, we got elections that are top two elections. So, in California, if you run in a partisan race, you're either voting Republican or Democrat, right? And so it's been tough here, especially in California, to make it to the general election. And the fact that we did do it is really amazing. I mean, we got close to 30% of the vote in the general for U.S. Congress, and that's something we're proud about. But it definitely, we do need electoral reform because the way it is right now, it's not made for Greens or third parties, right? We got to work 10 times harder. And even though you have like amazing, candidates like Franca, who ran in Baltimore, but, and she ran against, an incumbent who didn't even do anything and just relying on the D, just the D next to his name alone, just shows like how difficult it is and whatnot. And so definitely us Greens, we have to do the work and building our in our locals and whatnot, but we also have to try and change these election laws, right? That make it difficult for us to run and succeed, because we could be great, but when the election happens, it's just it can be used against us and whatnot with the way things are set up, like top two primaries or gerrymandering or and that's why we need ranked choice voting, proportional representation, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So, yeah.
Hey, Miss Leo, one of our regular Green fam folk. If you are elected, how do you plan to work? What are your critiques on how it's, in parentheses, not working now? What will your strategy be once in position tackling the problems, and what would you get done, your short and long-term goals?
Yeah, I mean, currently the office has over 160 employees. I want more. I want more employees to for auditing. I want to audit departments, especially the housing department. I want to audit the LAPD. I want to audit just basically, our departments that are getting a lot of money, or we think that they're not doing an efficient job, in caring for the city. So I definitely would want to do that more. Currently, our current controller, he's good. He's trying his best, I guess. But one thing we would do differently is we would use social media. We would use our website, and we would post a lot more facts about the city of LA in terms of the financial information, and tweet about it more or post about it more. So people can know that financial information, sooner and whatnot. And if that's something that if that's something that they would want to know, where their money's being spent or where it's coming from. Because I think people in LA don't even know where to go or where to look for. And I think that we don't do a good job as the LA city or the controller in getting that information out to the people, right? It's like they could have it on their website, but if no one knows about it, like what's the point of having it, right? So that's one thing we want to do differently. The other thing too is that the website, if you try to download information, sometimes it freezes. It's not user friendly. It's not people friendly. So no one knows where to go to find information on the city. So we want to change it as well. And lastly, when we win, we want to use the office as an educational framework. So when people join, we want to do like weekly classes on Finance 101, ask the controller anything, learn Excel, how to use the controller's website. And we just want to empower people, right? We want people to like have our information all in one spot, and to the point that they don't even need me to show them where to go. It's like, I want to teach them. I want to show them everything. I want to empower them, and I want them to just go out and hold their elected officials accountable by knowing what the city is doing. So that's what I would do. That's what we would do. Bring financial transparency, make data people friendly and accessible, and be educational. So good question.
The Progressive Coalition. For those who want to run locally, and there have been a few people who have mentioned it in the chat, what would warn them about, or what would you warn them about, or want them to be aware of before they do so?
For those who want to run locally, do it. We need more people to run locally. In hindsight, like I loved running for Congress. Like that's how I got. I think that's pretty much how I got like more popular, was through running through Congress and riding like the Bernie wave and all that when I was a Dem. But the local seats are the big ones. That's the ones where you really, really learn about what's happening at home. A lot of local legislation or policies revolve around housing, revolve around police, revolve around transportation. And those are big issues that I feel like more people should look at. So, if you do want to run locally, I'd say go for it. Look for races where you think you can win. Start building with your friends, your fellow activists. And if you don't have one, just find like-minded groups already doing the work, and then do the work, and then people will sort of recognize that you're doing great work. And when you do decide to run for office, they'd want to be part of your team. So, go for it. Don't try to run in big races that that might be difficult for you to win. That's what I would say. Go for races that you see the voter history and you have a good shot at winning, and whatnot. So, yeah, it's my thoughts.
Hey, Tommy Z Cat. And this is a really good question. Would you be afraid of the entrenched political establishment or those that influence it? There is enormous wealth in and around LA. That's a really good question, especially where you are.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, I think a lot of us here are always thinking about, the establishment and what they do. When we go out and protest, the cops are always there. We make it known that we're there to hold them accountable. We're always there to hold our elected officials accountable. There's a lot of money, there's enormous wealth. LA is the second largest city. And so, I think, it's part of our job. It's part of our job as elected officials to work for the people. And as long as the people are there, I think that, as long as the votes are there and the people are there to back you up, then that's what we're going to do, right? If we don't get it, then it's like, all right, fine. but if we win and we get the votes, we're going to go in there doing what we plan to do. And as long as the support is there and the movement's there to back us up all the way through, like, we're going to do it. So, yeah, good question.
I wish Angela and I had been attacked by the mainstream media more. because then we would have had a platform because they let us answer. Problem was we are ignored. So if the establishment goes after you, that's an opportunity. And I think our arguments beat theirs when it comes to policy and taking care of the people. So, bring it on.
Exactly. Bring it on.
Okay, Violet at the Content Boutique.
Hey, Violet.
Wants to know when your election is, Ken.
Yeah, our election right now is slated for March 2022, in about like 13, 14 months, but they might move it to June 2022 to match it with the federal and state elections. But we're starting now because it's a big city. There's a lot of miles to cover. There's 2.2 million voters, so it's huge. It's a huge city, right? We're in the second largest city in the country, so we got to start now. So yeah, so March 2022, and anyone here, we'd love if you could donate to our campaign. Small dollar donations are getting us through, so definitely would appreciate this.
We're combing for like really dope questions. Because I think you were pretty good at covering like everything that folks want to know. Is there anything else anyone wants to ask Kenneth about his run? Or I think you gave some really comprehensive answers to everything that that folks were asking. And I can't think of anything personally, like, when you interviewed me, I think you and I had a really good talk about, Miss Leo, there we go. The question that always sails over my head because my mind is like in 30 different places. How do we volunteer and get involved with helping Kenneth? I'm blowing you kisses, baby.
Yeah, good question. Visiting our website, mahiaforcontroller.com, you could sign up to volunteer. I think for a lot of out-of-state people, we are probably going to use help for like phone banking or text banking down the line. If you do have social media, just sharing our posts, nationalizing our posts, make our local campaign be a national campaign. So that you could help with that. And then also, donating, like I said, we're asking people if people can become $5 monthly donors. So we're thinking like, one coffee or something. But if you add up all the people, like the thousands of people, $5 turns into $5,000. So, if you have $5 to donate monthly, there's a recurring option. So, so sign up now, and down the road, we'll use your help for phone banking as we get closer, or just share our social media posts. So.
Our homie Lucard announcer, because this was just too good for me to like let this pass, is asking, are you going to do a $1.20 fundraising drive on April 20th on 4/20?
Yeah, I mean, we can, or it could be 42, 420, it could be 420 or some variation of the 420, right?
Hey.
We could do a 420 remix or a flat 420, but yeah, I mean, why not, right? I think, the thing that sucks about fundraising online is that that these websites, they take like a chunk of your donation, and if the donation's like really small, they'll take like half of it. so it sucks, but that's a good idea. I think Luca, the 420, that's a good idea. We have an awesome graphics team, and maybe we'll do a 420 fundraiser.
I think that's a dope, pun intended. It's a dope idea. I couldn't resist. Y'all know I'm old. All right, well, give us your stump speech, darling. You have the floor. It's all you.
Yeah.
What would you tell the people?
Great. Well, first of all, thank you, everyone. Thank you to all the Greens, to Angela, to Howie, for letting me on your show. I think that for us as Greens, we're always in a difficult position. So I always encourage Greens to to always keep their head up. It's difficult being part of a political party in general because everything's so partisan, but also having the rules stacked against you, it just makes it even harder. But what I tell people when I'm at times where I get like people are all sad about politics, I'm like, don't worry, like we have the best platform, we have the best. We have ballot access, and we're doing great work. Where whether people see it or not, we are truly the party that cares for others, and so that's what motivates me to run. Seeing people in Los Angeles who are suffering by policies by design, right? And that pushes me to be involved in mutual aid groups or activist groups, and then at times it pushes me to even run for office, which is what I'm doing. So I would say keep your head up, keep fighting. People will notice, do the work, and stay strong, Greens, and we I appreciate all your helps. So thank you both.
Thank you. And
Thank
have
you.
fun, like you said earlier.
Say that again.
Have fun.
Exactly. Have fun. Like have fun,
The cause is righteous. We got comrades. We can have fun, even when we're fighting the man.
Exactly. Greens don't always fight on social media. We can have fun too,
Exactly. Yeah.
Man.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kenneth.
That was awesome. And I think that, as we go on, it ain't I think that, I know that. I'm letting y'all know. As we continue, we will continue highlighting folks who are running around the country who are Greens, highlight their their candidacies, what motivates them, things like that. And Kenneth and I, we go back. He was one of the first interviews I did, and it was one of the most fun interviews I did, with the VP run. So it was pretty dope. So anybody got a burning question that they just have been dying to ask the whole time and we didn't get to you? Throw it in the chat super quick. And one question that I have seen in the chat a bunch of times: what's your dog's name? Her name is Dita. It's Dita Petunia. And she's not a corgi, she's a beagle. Hey, Gera. Hey, darling. Howie and Angela, any ideas on joining with other parties to get stronger?
Well, where are they? Our campaign, made an effort. We were the nominees of the Socialist Party as well as the Green Party. We got some endorsements from some small independent socialist groups, some DSA chapters. But in terms of our progressive or socialist politics on the left, there is not another party out there with ballot access, except a few in some states. And those independent progressive parties, they were a little bit scared of us, I think, because of the Trump referendum. So at this point, I think what we got to do is build on what we got and build the Green Party into a mass party. And that means we got to do that locally. We got to go out and not just mobilize the usual suspects, but go out and talk to people that ought to be with us. Working class communities, people of color communities, even those elements of the Trump coalition that are not totally caught up in the irrationalism of, the evangelical fundamentalism where they don't believe in evolution or COVID or climate, and they believe the election was stolen. And, the world is run by cannibalistic pedophiles. I mean, they're in a self-referential, silo, and, facts don't matter. Their lying eyes don't matter. Remember Trump, his first thing he had his press secretary go out and do when he was inaugurated is claim he had more people than Obama did. And we all saw the pictures, and they're demanding that we don't believe our lying eyes. And there's a section of the far right that doesn't believe their lying eyes. They think their eyes are lying. And that, you know, evangelical fundamentalists are 15% of the population. They're in decline. They were 21% until 2008. But they were 28% of the whole vote, about 60% of Trump's vote. I don't know how you talk to those people. I mean, reality's got to slap them upside the head, I guess. But there's another 40% of the Trump coalition. Some of them are traditional Republicans. The mass base there is the old middle classes, small business people, and middle managers, and self-employed people, and farmers. And they're being attacked by monopoly capitalism. So there's a basis for a discussion with them. And then you got, what was it? 7 million Obama to Trump voters, 1.5 million Sanders to Trump voters. And I think Trump appealed to them in this last election by talking about the economy. You know, he was making boasts about lies about what he had done and making promises he couldn't keep. But at least he was saying, I'm going to reopen the economy so your businesses can reopen and you can go back to work. Biden's sitting there saying, I'm going to unite the country. That was like Clinton in 2016, stronger together. For people who are hurting economically, that message doesn't resonate. So, for example, in Florida, Biden lost Florida by 3%. The $15 minimum wage won by 22%. A lot of those Trump voters voted for $15 an hour. Or take Medicare for all. Exit poll in this election done by Fox News. They called it government-run health insurance. Probably to try to get a low number. 72% of the people said, yeah, that's what I want. Government-run health insurance or Medicare for all. A lot of those people were Trump voters. I think he got 47% of the vote. So there's, and Biden got 51. So to get to 72, you need about 21% of those Trump voters to get to that number. So what I'm saying is, when we go out and do our canvassing and we focus on working class people of color, young people, but also there are people in the Trump coalition that we can break away. And I think we got to. The other big problem we face is that the single winner take all election system we got, single member districts, pushes people on the left to vote for the center against the far right. That dynamic's been going on for 50 years. And until we change that, we're going to have a problem. The good news is there's real movements out there now for ranked choice voting. There are campaigns that are well organized now in 20 states. We got it in 38 cities in 2 states. I think in Biden time, that's really the game-changing reform we can win. So I put a high priority on that. So they're kind of straying from other parties, but it's all about building the Green Party at this point. If another party comes along and they got real people and they got a real organization and they're on the left, definitely we should talk.
And before we leave, and I'd seen this comment, Violet's comment in the chat, and it was way up there, so I'm glad that you reintroduced it. But Violet is asking us, now that the Redditor group holds all the GameStop stock, say that three times fast, could they move to turn it into a co-op? Could that be a cool strategy to get co-ops going? What do you think?
They turned the Redditor group into a co-op? I mean, what they did was get together and bid up the price. And now they better get out because it's way above its fundamentals. The problem is a lot of people bought it on the way up, and if they don't get out, they're going to lose money. The house always wins in the stock market. I don't even think that's relevant to what we're trying to do. To get co-ops going, well, what I advocate is public banks with a technical assistance arm that would do the business planning, hire the workers, train them to run it as a co-op. That's what they did in Mondragon, Spain through their House of People's Labor and now basically a university kind of institution that does that. And 98% of their startups are still in business. This has been developing since the 1950s. I think that's how we build co-ops. The stock market is, that's just gambling on future profits, and that's what people with money to spare can do. But the little people getting involved in that game, the big players got inside information. They know, what's planned the next day in terms of bids on, buying or selling. So they have a lot more information than the little person. I mean, if you got savings in the stock market, I just put it in a mutual fund, broad mutual fund, excuse me, and just sit on it and go up and down with the whole stock market.
Rose is plugging us. Hey, Rose. Howie and Angela have some special live streams coming up on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time that will celebrate Black History Month. So yes, we do. And because my mind is like all over the place, I would have aired that out and then ended up posting it on social media. But get out of my plant, Perdita. For folks who, are following and you want to celebrate Black History Month with us, we will be doing some live streams that are going to be interesting. So tune in.
And I see a question in the chat I really want to answer. It's from Sammy Varma. I hope I pronounced your first name right. What is your opinion of the Communist Party of India, Marxist, having a majority in the Kerala legislature? The Communist Party Marxists, there was a split back in the 60s. I won't even go into that. But they're a mass party, and they've had influence in a number of Indian states, particularly Kerala. Very progressive. Kerala is a poor community or a poor state or province, but they have one of the highest life expectancies in the world. They use public investments to benefit the people in terms of housing, healthcare, education, and developing cooperatives. And they have a majority in the Kerala legislature. They've always had influence. And I just urge people to read about Kerala. That's an example where in the United States, if we had a Green Party that had real influence in state legislature, we could do a lot of the kind of things Kerala has done, except we got a lot more money for those public investments and could take it further. So, the Communist Party of India, this Marxist group, they're anti-Stalinists. That was the split back in the 60s. And, they're a powerful party. I mean, I think they have like 10 million members across India. It's a real mass party. And I think that's an example people should study. So thanks for asking that question.
All right, we're getting to Kane. Howie, what are your last thoughts? Because I'm really trying to compose mine.
Well, we were being trolled by somebody from ADOS. And I'm going to speak out on this. They say the only people that should get reparations are direct descendants of chattel slaves. And that ignores all the discrimination that Black people and other people of color have faced throughout our history, including just take the last 10 years. Blacks and Latinos lost half their wealth because of predatory lending and foreclosures by these big banks. And those corporate criminals have got off. The Obama administration didn't prosecute them. Trump put them in his cabinet. Steve Mnuchin from One West out in California was a Treasury Secretary. Wilbur Ross, king of the robo-signing, fraudulent stealing of people's homes, was head of Commerce Department. How about reparations for the people who lost their homes the last 10 years? Or for, 100 years of Jim Crow? Or for West Indian people who are descendant of slaves who now live in the United States? And the slave-owning class, they cooperated across the whole America. So the idea, and then, these ADOS people say they're anti-immigrant. They're like the Republicans. Yvette Carnell goes around with a MAGA hat, a Trump MAGA hat. They're trolling us with a bunch of American flags on there. I think this is a right-wing movement designed to split the reparations movement, the anti-racist movement. And I just say, go back in your corner and talk to yourselves, because you're not making any sense to me.
Well, the thing about it, yelling at me, and literally in all caps, yelling at me, I was very clear about the fact that I am the descendant of enslaved people. I am. We have done our lineage in our family. And so for someone to say that lineage does not matter, I literally just said it did. I identify myself as the descendant of enslaved Africans, because where were our people taken from? You can't just create this history in a vacuum. Like, to say that we just popped up on this continent ignores how we get here, why we're brought here. And, I just think that it's very myopic, and it's also not criticizing. I'm not taking anything away from my own people by being someone who stands for reparations for my folks, and also linking the struggle of Black folks in this country to oppressed people around the world, and particularly folks through the diaspora. So, I mean, it's frustrating, but, I knew what was going to happen when I tweeted about my lineage today, and it drew folks out of the woodwork, which I was expecting, but we need to have this talk. So we will be discussing ADOS, as a matter of fact, this Saturday at, I want to say that's at 2 p.m. 2 p.m. No, 3 p.m. Eastern. I got it on my call. I have it wrong on my own thing. Told you, my mind is all over the place. But we will be having a discussion about this subject with some OGs in the movement, folks who have done this work, and for, folks, that saw this in the chat saying that I slandered, the ADOS movement. I didn't even mention them. So how did I slander them? I'm also a member of NCOBRA. So who do you think I'm going to rep? Come on now. I am a Black socialist. The Green Party that I belong to is an international party. Come on. That energy is better used in places other than, coming here to troll us and attack us, when our party platform is international. So there you go.
Yeah, I want to add, I saw comments in the chat about universal economic programs, economic human rights versus reparations. They're not in conflict. When King at the March on Washington, in his formal remarks before he started talking about the dream, he was talking about coming for a promissory note, particularly for the descendants of slaves. But the demands for the march were universal economic human rights, because, and this gets to the politics that people mentioned in the chat, he and A. Philip Randolph and Bayard Rustin, and that was the Socialist Party back in those days, a small party, but they were the people that pulled that demonstration together. Their demands were for an economic Bill of Rights to jobs, income, housing, education, without discrimination. And that continued through the 60s to King's Poor People's Campaign. But race-conscious injuries require race-conscious remedies. If you got your home stolen because a bank targeted you because you were Black or Latino, universal economic program is not going to get your house back. That bank has got to, and those people got to be prosecuted, and it may take public money to get your wealth and your home back. And that's beyond just those economic human rights. So we got to do both. Reparations is about making people whole and repairing the damage. And universal economic human rights are about all of us getting the basic things we need. So we got to be for both.
And the thing that I'm going to in my part with, if folks are interested in looking this information up, there was a Black manifesto that is simply badass. to this day that came out of the first Black National Convention held in 1972. And so if folks that are interested in reading that, just kind of put it in your Google, first Black National Convention, 1972 Black Manifesto. And I want to say it was James Foreman. And I'm horrible with names, but I believe it was James Foreman.
Except it came out of the Detroit Black Economic Development Conference in 1969. And he brought it to the Riverside Church.
Yes.
Asking the churches and synagogues to fund Black publishers, broadcasting,
media,
Black Land Bank, institutions, not just individual reparations,
yes,
although those are needed too, so that the Black community had some wealth and institutions to develop. Now that may have, I'm sure it was brought to the 1972 National Black Political Assembly. But anyway, yeah, and Foreman came out of SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. He was in the Black Panther Party for a minute. The FBI got in the middle of that and wrecked that. But yeah, go back and read the Black Manifesto and look at the demands. I mean, HR 40 is about studying what reparations should be. And the thing where I think that's the next step to get a good reparations program is that the Black community needs to speak up, have an opportunity to speak up for what they see as needed in a reparations program.
And our community is not a monolith. I just need people to be real clear about that. There are as many different Black folks and ways to be Black in this country as there are Black folks in this country. So we are not, as communities, we are not a monolith. So, and I think, you know, that's what I'm going to leave folks with. Stop, Dita. Other than my dog attacking me all night. Yes, as Robin is saying, 1972 was the template for reparative justice. So, you know, if y'all want to dig a little deeper into that, you want to pull that manifesto up because it is, like I said, badass to this day. So that's my final thought. Also, you know, COVID is doing its thing, particularly in Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities. And working class folks are getting our asses, behinds handed to us with these infections. So I really, 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 really want y'all to take care of yourselves as much as possible. As our homie Tina said, Mercury retrograde is happening. We are seeing it. Good Google it, moo. So just take care of yourself. Protect your peace. Protect yourself. Howie, what you got?
Amen to that. We got these new strains coming in, more contagious. The epidemiologists are predicting we're going to have the biggest wave yet of infections in the next few months. So don't let your guard down. Take care of yourself, please. And have a good evening.